Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Pavel. Welcome to another wonderful, lively episode of the Engineering Evolved podcast. My name is Brandon E. Grant. As always, my faithful co-host, Pavel Krupa. So, Pavel, the title of today's episode, Who Needs Sleep? Question for you. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. How about you?
Yeah, are you like lively, or are you maybe a little tired?
Yeah, definitely a bit lack of sleep.
Yep. So, in this kind of series, and as we kind of planned out what we're talking about, what the topics are, you know, I believe that an engineer, you can break down an engineer into 4 or 5 domains, right? Body, being, balance, and business. As a certified warrior trainer, that's the ones we talk about. And then as an engineer, I know the importance of talking about brain, right? So we talked about body with fitness and nutrition. We talked about fuel for your brain last week with gratitude. So this is week 2 of the brain conversation, right? Every week we have, or every subject we have like 2 weeks loosely. Sleep, right? My simple statement for taking care of your brain is practice intentional gratitude daily and get enough sleep. Now, this is a great byline. This is a great, slogan and a bumper sticker. But what is the problem with, you need to get enough sleep? What is the problem that you see with that statement as it applies to engineers and engineering culture?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's just a statement and nobody takes it seriously. It has been not
Right.
considered as a priority for a lot of people.
Right.
I would say that's probably like number one. People just think, okay, I need to get some sleep, but there are more important things to do than to sleep. Like if I sleep, I cannot get stuff done. I think that was in the engineering world.
Yep. So for those of us who are watching live on LinkedIn, raise your hand if in the last 2 weeks you have said, well, instead of sleep, I'm going to go do this other important thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's 2, 2 of 2. And this is, we're pretty tapped into human performance and what works best. I know my go-to move, right? If you were to be like, all right, what's the move Brandon's going to pull here, right? I have a couple crazy ones. My go-to move is, if I need to, I will pull from sleep. I will pull from that reservoir, right? I will say, okay, I need to get this thing done. Last night, my wife and I are doing some freeze-dried candy as a business for the holiday season and kind of running into next year as another type of side hustle. And last night it was, well, I'm going to have to wait. I'm going to have to be up because I got a workout to do. And then I've got to be up to swap a batch over. And so like, it's no problem for me to be like, yeah, I'll totally stay up until midnight. And then my morning routine starts at 4. This morning it was 4:30 or 5 because I was really tired. I know that I can go to that reservoir and I can pull down my sleep hours to 3 or 4 hours and still be quote unquote okay, right? Engineers who are parents have this extra because we had the, not only am I trying to do all this work, but I've also got this, kid that wakes me up at the beginning of life all the time. So we get in this habit of just pulling from sleep as a reservoir. How big of an impact do you think this is for the engineering community in general? Like, how many people do you think this affects? Is it unanimous? Is it maybe it's just me?
No, I would think it's the majority of the community. One more thing I wanted to mention on this. According to the studies, if we actually do not get enough sleep for a certain amount of time, so let's say like you said, we take out from the reservoir for 2 weeks in a row, the moment we get into the car, it's almost the same as getting to the car under influence of the alcohol. That's how impactful that is for us and for like our conscious and for what we are capable of doing, because
Right.
we just don't have the time to regenerate. But yeah, I think it does affect almost majority of people that are engineers, including us, of course.
Right. And it's one of these things where I think it's closer to unanimous. I've met very few engineers who are currently practicing I must get enough sleep practice, right? It's almost this badge of honor, right? It's this, well, I only got 3 hours of last night and I'm still able to do my job totally fine. My brain is so strong and so powerful that I don't actually need sleep like other people, right? Which is totally, totally false. I heard one time, and I have been guilty of saying, like my 100% on a project where maybe I'm a subject matter expert, my 100% is great, right? That's why I'm there. But my 60% is better than everyone else's 100 for that specific project. And we get into this idea that even deficient, we can still support a project better than us getting rest. And on occasion, here we go. I'll go. Here's my justification. My brain just came up with. On occasion, I think it's okay. It's when it becomes habitual, right?
Yeah.
Some of the most influential people have all spouted how important sleep is, right? Some of these big CEOs, Elon right now talks about how important it is to get sleep. And then on the very other breath, every story you hear about Elon, every article you read talks about him sleeping on the factory floor to get things up and running. So even that as an example talks about how, when he was launching PayPal, the book talked about how he coded at night and then worked during the day and slept under the desk in the office. Like this idea of I will give up sleep in order to accomplish something is part of not our DNA, but our culture. It's baked in. It's part of the unwritten rules. You're on site, right? Most people would say, I have a job, and at this job, there's this idea that at some point in time, I'm going to need to be available for 24 to 48 hours for every once in a while. And it doesn't matter if I get sleep, right? Most people would be like, that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
But engineers face that. I've never been in a job where it's not like, there's a period where as an engineer, you have to be there, right? My current company, that is not the case. That if something happens as an engineer and it's, the difference of going home and getting a fair amount of sleep or not, it's go home, get a fair amount of sleep. We will resolve it tomorrow. But at the same time, we're not in like this super, super high pressure situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's this positive reinforcement, right? Hey, everybody, great job. You saved the project. You're a hero. Positive reinforcement for a like quantitatively evidence-backed negative behavior.
Yeah, that's correct.
What's the longest you've stayed on a job site on a project? Like,
I think 26
the longest
hours.
you stayed awake and working.
Yeah, 26 hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And
but it doesn't, like, I was there, like, physically, but I wasn't there mentally. I think that's something that many peoples and perhaps some managers don't understand. Engineering being on site is one thing, but the second thing is how useful that person is. And like for most of the people, like even as engineers, after let's say 8, maybe 10 hours of work, the quality of the work just goes down, like because we need rest to be able to accomplish new things. Like after those 10 hours, especially like you mentioned, if we have those periods where there is a shutdown happening or the company needs us for a long time, and then let's say it's the 5th or the 10th day in a row, and then you're again 10 hours at work, there is no way that you can keep up with the pace and keep up with the quality of the work you're delivering on day one. Like you need rest and of course sleep. So
absolutely,
yeah, I'm 100% with you. But I think it would be nice for everyone to like kind of realize and just notice, like, okay, I was at work, let's say 12 hours yesterday, and the past 3 days. How was I feeling on the day one, and what I delivered on day one versus what I'm delivering now? Yeah, and that should give you an idea of like how fast the quality of the work goes down.
Yep. So the quality goes down, and that's just the mental aspect, right?
Yeah.
Everyone talks about how you need rest to properly function at your highest capacity mentally, right? We'll talk in another episode coming up about the importance of meditation and decompression and things like that. But sleep is super important. Sleep gives your brain the ability to refresh and recoup. But it has other aspects, right? So last year, 2022, I trained all year for a men's physique competition, a bodybuilding competition, right? I hired a really, really good coach, like a world-class coach. And one of the things he taught me that's still to this day, I have cognitive dissonance around, is he was talking about the importance of rest versus lifting and working out. He said, ideally you want to get rest. The target was 7.5 hours a night of sleep, and do your lifts, do your lifting and build muscle. He said, but if you had to choose between the two, I would rather you sleep than go and lift weights, right? We're talking about building muscle for a bodybuilding competition. And he said, the hour of sleep to get you from 6.5 to 7.5 is actually going to be more important for your recovery, for your muscle retention, for everything else than is the lifting. And there's a study that he did that he shared. He didn't do the study. He shared it with me. They did a peer-reviewed study where they took two groups who were similar physique, similar everything else. They'd followed a diet. They built up. One group they had get 7.5 hours of sleep with a calorie deficit. So they were in a cut phase. The other group, they had 5.5 hours of sleep, right? And for most engineer, 5.5 hours, I'm like, yeah, I'm totally fine. Feels good. I'm rested. The 5.5 hour sleep group compared to the 7.5 hour sleep group lost the same amount of weight due to the calorie deficit, right? So the weight loss was similar. But in terms of body composition, the 7.5 hour group lost some muscle mass. The 5.5 hour group lost 50% more muscle mass, more lean mass over that cut period than did the more sleep. Like, it affects everything. It affects your physical reinforcement, which we talked about. Exercise is important. So if you're losing the muscle, that's not going to help your brain. It's such a completely underrated. I would say this is one of the largest, most underrated culturally acceptable things. Is it's totally fine to be deficit versus sleep deprived, but it's totally fine to expect that you come into work and sometimes you're going to have a sleep deficit.
Yep.
So go for it.
Now that we talk of it, I remind myself that in some cultures, like for example in Japan, it is even considered a good thing that you fall asleep after work, like on the metro or when you go in or out. Now that actually makes me wonder, is it because they want to get more of the sleep because they cannot get enough? Or is it that they are overworked and that's why they're falling asleep because they didn't sleep long enough? That's actually a good question, and that would be a good study to review.
Yeah. My gut initial, that'd be a great way to ask somebody. My gut is maybe both.
Perhaps.
Historically, Japan, I don't have any recency, but I know Japan has a stigma of being it's really important to work extra, like 12, 14, 16-hour days. And if you're getting a 16-hour day, if you left work and fell asleep and then woke up and were at work, you're still getting 7 hours of sleep, right? Yeah. Which isn't enough. It's not enough. So what do we do to change it? Because I think changing engineering culture is going to be a challenge, right?
Yep.
That's going to be a slow-moving boat. There's a lot of engineers, and a lot of us follow the same mentality, right? There's a lot of engineers who would say, okay, well, if you're going to sleep 8 hours, I'm going to sleep 5 because I'll get 3 more hours on you. And they're actually it's kind of this game theory where we're locked into this horrible habit, right? So what steps do you know of? Let's talk about different steps that you could do to improve maybe the quality, but also maybe the quantity, but also the quality. Like, what are some things you've heard about?
I mean, like you mentioned, I think the most important in sleep itself is the quality, which we can divide the sleep basically into three phases, which will be like light sleep, the deep sleep, and the REM.
Right.
Now, the question is actually how much of the deep sleep do we get? Because like the deep sleep is the time where like our brain like turns on a dishwasher, let's say, and it kind of washes out everything from the day, get new fresh cells, and it's ready to work the next day. So the
Right.
quality of that and quantity of that dream is the most important for us. In fact, the elderly people has this phase as the shortest phase of their sleep, which sometimes like the people around 70 or 80, they will get only 7 minutes of the deep sleep. And that's why the Alzheimer's diseases and other diseases show up. So that's the studies that I read. So that's very interesting. And that's why we should focus on the deep sleep phase. And now the question that you asked,
Right.
what do I know? From the basic stuff, it's like no blue light. Blue light means no cell phone, no laptop before sleep, at least an hour up to 2 hours. So that will be like probably number one that I heard. And that's what I try to follow. So if I'm going to sleep, don't look at the phone before I go to sleep. The only thing I do is I just set my alarm clock, and I even don't do that because I have it set it up for like every day at a strict hour, so I don't have to even look. Like I only check if it's charged. That's the only thing. Second thing, in my case, I always put the phone into airplane mode. So no phone calls, no messages, not thinking if somebody called, not thinking if maybe somebody tried to contact me. No, I'm disconnected. That's my time to sleep and relax.
Right.
Next thing, definitely do not eat right before going to sleep. So you should not eat for like 3 to 4 hours before you go to sleep, especially nothing heavy. If let's say you are long time at work like we do, and you get back home and you want to eat something that's light, and that will allow you to digest easy, so your body doesn't have to think about it too much when you go to sleep.
Right.
And probably the last thing I would say, what you already mentioned, is the temperature. So colder temperatures are much more helpful for engaging to that deep sleep phase, the quality one, the one that actually gives us the rest. So I think those will be like the my get to thing that I do. So no phone, don't eat, a little bit colder temperature, and that will be like my standard for going to sleep. Not only for me, but my wife as well.
Right. Now, do you use just room temperature, or do you actually have something that cools your bed?
No, I do not have anything that cools my bed. Just room temperature, like open window. Actually, there is actually one more thing that I found very useful, and that is blackout curtains or window blinds. I have
Right.
seen that this dramatically increases the quality of the sleep. So I will sleep the same amount of time, but I will feel much more rested the next day. So if it's like 100% blackout, that's for me, that's a game changer. That is something that I didn't realize until we didn't put it into our bedroom. And then I'm like, okay, that is totally new thing. Even like if you don't have the curtains, you can always use the sleep mask. Yeah, that will deliver the same output. So you just put it so no light gets into your eyes.
Kind of like that, the sleep mask.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
100%. So yeah, those are all factors. There's a lot of studies that showed it. So like one of the things I do is I have a ring called an Oura ring, OURA. It's a fantastic little device because it gives you all this data. So like I can tell you that last night you were talking, I got time in bed was 4 hours and 27 minutes, but I got 4 hours and 2 minutes of sleep, right? It gives you a resting heart rate. I only got 36 minutes of REM, but I got an hour and 20 of that deep sleep. So it actually breaks down like all of the numbers for you. So that's fun because you can actually look at the data there. And that is a fantastic tool, right? It's a way to go. The last time that I got a really good number on my sleep score was the other night. I think I got like a 90. It was crazy. I got a 90 on my sleep score, 7 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 6 minutes of REM, and an hour 24 of deep, right? So like So using data, the thing is you have to do something with the data. I know that a 7-hour sleep is going to get me peak spot on every day. The chances are, though, that the bias, the inverted bias, the incorrect assumption is I think that the extra 3 hours tonight will mean that I'll lose the ability to do things tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
When in reality, over and over and over and over again, the data says that get the sleep tonight because then tomorrow you'll be so much more effective that you'll make up ground.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's just, it's crazy that we don't do it. The other thing I do is I have these blue light blocking glasses, which studies have shown that if you do this for, I think it's around an hour before you go to bed, and where you block the blue light, that helps you go to sleep. You can do temperature control. I have a bed called the 8 Sleep. There's a couple of different ones that they have, but it actually runs water, and it controls. And I get in and it's cooled and it's constantly cooled and it's really awesome. That gives you some more sleep data. But there's a lot of people who have done studies. Like there's one guy I saw on LinkedIn, and I wish I could remember his name. I'll have to go find the post. But he talked about how he doesn't necessarily try to strive for the 8 hours. He tries to strive for 6 hours with a set score. And he does it through blue light blocking. He does it through red light exposure. And he does some either temperature, either with a heat bath. I think he does a hot water as a heat dump, hot shower, and then jumps into bed with the cool temperature controlled bed. So you drop that. So there's a lot of different tools you can use, but yeah, no phone, blacking out the light. I have a personal opinion that anyone that sleeps with their socks on is insane. Like I can't imagine what it would be if you slept with your socks on. Personal bias coming through there. But there's studies that show that when you take your socks off, that's an indicator to your brain that it's time for sleep, because that temperature drop through your feet actually triggers a lot of the sleep tendencies. So there's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of different studies and available information that's out there. So if you're going to be stuck, quote unquote, stuck, I don't like that word. If we are going to continually make poor choices to not get the right amount of sleep, we can at least help ourselves out by going and getting more high quality sleep. Get the best quality we can out of the sleep that we have.
Well, there is one more thing now that I would like to mention as you were talking. And that's when you talk about taking off the socks. Another thing that's important for the sleep itself is the mechanism that triggers our body to knowing that we're going to sleep. So if we have a pattern that actually always the same before we go to sleep, then our body starts to prepare for going to the sleep. Because sometimes, let's say you went to sleep at 8 p.m. this day, and then 10 p.m. and then 11 p.m., whatever, like it's a very irregular pattern. The body doesn't have the time to adapt. So the time it needs to get into the deep sleep varies. So you will just lie in the bed, and before you fall asleep, it might take you an hour. But when there is a pattern and the body recognizes it, it can take you like 15 to half an hour just to fall asleep. And that's also a big thing for getting a quality sleep, because if you do not follow the pattern, then your body doesn't know, like your hormones needs to adapt as well. Yeah. It takes time for the hormones to know, okay, it's time to sleep now. Before, when like in the ancient times, people knew like, why do we need the temperature lower? Because before there was no sun, temperature drops. So we were sleeping in conditions with the lower temperature. And again, that was a pattern. People saw, okay, the sun goes down, our hormones get more calm, it's time to go to sleep. Nowadays, the blue light, watching something, watching like Netflix right before the bed, or like some dramatic movie, that is going to impact how we sleep.
Yeah.
So all of this, we need to take into the consideration before going to the bed. That's what I want to say about the socks. Like that was like a trigger. But if for someone taking off the socks is a trigger that it's time to sleep, that's fine. I don't think I see the bias from your side, but I don't see an issue with this being something that triggers your body that, okay, it's time that you will go to sleep.
Yep. Well, it's that biological temperature drop. Like that temperature dip is one of those things that drives some of those hormonal and body reactions for getting enough sleep. I'd be really curious to see if we could find a kind of a sleep expert on how to do it, because there's also other things that we didn't even get a chance to talk about yet, is, you know, some different supplementation, right? If you follow Andrew Human, he's got a supplement that he takes at a specific time before he goes to sleep that helps him get into and increase the quality of the sleep he's in, right? So yeah, pattern, incorporating the right kind of sleep habits. For me, I think this is one of the biggest areas of opportunities. This is one of those, you know, I've done some things to help. I've got the bed that cools so that when I get there, but like, if I were to have a consistent night routine, a consistent sleep routine, right? Get some muscle moves, get some, you know, foam roller to do muscle release, and the right temperature shifts and the same time, and the blue light goes on at the same schedule. You know, that sounds almost impossible to me. Like, it sounds almost impossible that that would actually happen. But I know that if I were to incorporate that, everything else would get better.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone had some interesting insights or some different ideas. One thing I want to let everyone know, as an engineer, you're not alone. Like, we are asked regularly to push beyond what are regular boundaries. It's okay every once in a while. I think it would be foolish for me to be like, don't ever put in extra hours. That would impact in most places whether or not you get to retain your job, right? At least to the places that I've been around. So it's okay to do it sometimes, but it's important to make sure we're still focusing on the quality, because quality is not necessarily the same as quantity. It's important to build a habit. It's important to know that your brain and the way that your body functions based off of that recovery phase of sleep is critical to you being a better engineer.
Definitely.
So if you have any questions, if anybody wants resources, please reach out. We've got a couple different places we can go. One, you can go to the Engineering Evolved podcast, Engineering Evolved page here on LinkedIn. We're on live on LinkedIn as a couple of our platforms right now. But the Engineering Evolved page on LinkedIn, the sooner we get that to 500 people, the more we can go live on there. If you are watching this live, I wouldn't put hashtag live there earlier. Please comment with hashtag live. If you're watching this on replay, please comment hashtag replay. I've seen a couple people doing that for us. Really appreciate that engagement. If you want more resources, or if you want to hear more about this subject, please comment that you want to hear more, because Pablo and I can go and do some research. I'm perfectly happy to go find some experts on this and try to understand ways to impact more quality sleep versus the quantity, because I think quantity is an unreal expectation to shift the entire engineering culture away from. But trying to be able to define quality is a really important deal. And if you want to know more information on any of the products I mentioned, you know, please reach out. I can give you tips. I can give you guidance. I can give you feedback on the Aura or the 8 Sleep or the glasses. There's a lot of different things we can do to kind of get there. So the biggest thing is, if anybody were to make and take this podcast and this information and make one step forward towards more positive sleep, I guarantee you that one step forward is going to help you become a better engineer. Pab, what do you think of that statement? Am I way out of my boots on that?
That's correct. That's correct. 100%. I stand with my both hands. And again, get a good quality sleep, and that will improve your engineering effects, the quality of your work. The quality of your sleep will be reflected by quality of the work that you deliver.
Absolutely. Sometimes you got to tap the reservoir, but doesn't have to be an every single day, every single night type thing. So that's it for me. Pavel, I want you to get some rest tonight. I know you got your ballroom dancing tonight as per normal on Wednesdays. Yes. But get some rest. I'm going to go do the same. I've been burning the candle at both ends, as we say, the last couple of nights. I'm going to make sure I don't do that again tonight. And until next week, Brandon E. Grant is signing off. Pavel, what do you got to say? What are you going to do to close this out? What's your biggest takeaway today?
I think I'm just going to repeat what I said, guys. Good quality of sleep means good quality of your work. So get good sleep tonight.
Absolutely. Everyone have a wonderful time next week. Unless Pavel and I decide to go way off, we're going to go talk about this idea of being, more of the spirituality, meditation, journaling, things like that. So we'll get a very specific title worked out, but we're going to go into this realm of more of this conversation that we don't have very often as engineers. So please join us next week as we dig in, get some rest. And again, if you want to reach out, please do. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Get some rest.
Thank you. Bye-bye.